might be a good idea for me to sit down and have a little conversation with you about my health journey and the kind of diets I have tried, what has worked, what hasn't, what worked, but you know what, it wasn't practical enough, so because of that, it didn't work. Of course, as soon as I set up my camera, my neighbors next door decided to mow their lawn or cut their bushes or whatever it was. So I do apologize for the noise that you might probably be hearing every now and again, but what can you do? That's real life. While the kids are at school and nursery, I have a little bit of time to set up my camera and have a chat with you guys. So get yourself a nice drink, sit down, and let's have a little chat about all the different ways how you can have a healthy lifestyle and what has worked for me, what hasn't, and some of the things I think you might want to know. Maybe things you've never heard about before or people just don't talk about. And I'm the kind of person who likes things to be very realistic and raw. I'm always going to be honest with you guys about everything when it comes to the lifestyle that we live, and I'm trying to make sure that it's as real as it possibly can be. I am not a medical professional of any kind. This is just me sharing my story and just 10 years worth of kind of research of open sources and stuff that I have found helpful, and what I got out of it, and how I'm now living the best healthy lifestyle. I feel like it's so practical and realistic, and since my partner has started doing it and my older son is eating the same way we do, we are so in a much better place than we ever were before. Like this is shocking to us, to be honest. That's why I had to make sure that I record it for you guys and share it as much as possible. Growing up, I had a weak gallbladder, which just meant that I couldn't eat fried food, I couldn't eat salted food or pickled or anything like that, just because my gallbladder just could not cope with digesting that kind of food. And that is something that I have to keep in mind with whatever diet I've been trying, that it's something that will not go away. There's nothing I can do about it. There's medication for it, but the best choice that the doctors have always told me from the very beginning would be an overhaul of your eating, and as long as you eat healthy diet for the gallbladder, it will be very, very manageable, which it has. All right, so if we go back to the beginning, growing up, I was quite medium build, more athletic built kind of girl. I did a lot of sports growing up. I did professional horse riding as well as I did track and field and stuff. So I was quite lean and I was quite strong. But as I entered my teenage years and I stopped performing as many sports, and obviously you continue eating the way you do, you started to put on a bit of weight. So as I was coming out of high school, which was a boarding school, and the quality of the food there was really not very good at all. It was mainly carb-based diet, a lot of processed foods, and coming out of it, I've put on a bit of weight. I was a couple of sizes, well, I'd say at least 3 sizes bigger than I would consider being comfortable in. I had really bad acne, but you know, back then, you know, you're a teenager, that's considered so normal, and now I understand it is because of the lifestyle that I had and the diet that I was following. So a year after I finished high school, I moved to London, and I've completely overhauled my food and what I eat and what I don't. So as I came out of high school, that first year of living on my own and out of the boarding house was a real experimental stage for me. I've tried a lot of different things and I got really good results and some terrible results all at the same time. My main focus was to lose the weight that I've put on the muscle that I've lost because I wasn't working out as much, and just in general I did not have the healthiest lifestyle, and I wanted to be like, I've always been a very active person. I like doing things, I like physical work, so that was something that was one of my goals for sure. And the other thing was clearing up my skin, because as anybody knows, you know, your skin, your face, it's like, it is so unbelievably important. Your face is your everything. That's the first thing people notice when you enter a room. And mentally, it was very, very difficult to have really bad skin, especially when it comes to being 18 years old. You know, life is tough as it is for teenagers, but when you have bad skin, it's very difficult for your self-confidence. So those were my 3 main goals. So lose the weight, put on the muscle, being strong was something I really missed, and clearing up my acne was a massive thing. So the first thing I have tried, just because it was very, very popular at the time, was going on a low-fat diet. Was a massive thing, low-calorie, low-fat diet. So I would be buying low-fat products such as like low-fat yogurts and, you know, cheeses and all of that kind of stuff. I remember even seeing in Waitrose they had these low-fat pâtés, and I used to just love those as well, which made me lose the weight very, very quickly. But as you stop eating this way, I found that I would put on weight at an unbelievable rate. It would be coming back with vengeance. I found that my acne was getting even worse, and there was no way I could put on muscle on. Like, I had no energy whatsoever, and my digestion was all over the place. My appetite was all over the place. I'll have days when I was not hungry at all, and then there would be days when I would have like 5 meals and it could still not fill me. And I found that really, really difficult when my appetite was back and forth, and it was just not the best. And the fact that my skin got even worse, I was very, very unhappy about it. I was bloated all the time. It was very, very difficult. So at the time, what I was eating was everything except, I wouldn't eat dairy, but I would have an occasional cheese. That's what, I just love cheese. I love cheese so badly. I would never be able to cut it out of my life, I don't think. And it's just, that is just something I completely accept about myself, and I can manage now. So in that sense, it's completely fine. But at the time then, I was eating everything. I was eating lots of products with gluten, just because they had basically no fat whatsoever in them. That's another tricky thing. I was eating only lean meats, and I was eating reasonable amount of fruit and vegetables, and I've lost a decent amount of weight. What I did find was, by eating a low calorie and low fat diet, my body adjusted to having a lot less calories to deal with. So whenever I would have a cheat day, I joke you not, I would put on a couple of kilos just from that one day. When I would have, literally, I'd go and have a burger. One burger, and poof, I would just, it's like a month worth of hard work of losing weight would just come back in a matter of a day. Like, it was mad. And that's just something I would not, I could not accept. To me, that was unsustainable and it did not work. And another thing that got me really disappointed in it is the fact that I could not put on any muscle. I did not feel any stronger. So as I was doing that, I was trying to get as healthy as possible. I would do yoga. I tried to do, I think I was running about 3 times a week at that point. And I could just not, like, my body could not do it. It's like it had no energy. So I've stopped doing that. And what I thought at the time was I twisted my ankle. A few years later, I found out I broke my ankle as well, which was really, really difficult for me, in a way that my ankle just snapped. Now I understand that I didn't have enough nutrition going into my diet, so like my calcium levels were not existing. So because of that, my bones were so weak that literally I broke my ankle out of nothing. I was walking down the street on a night out with my friends, and I misstepped. It was literally twisting your ankle, and it turned out to have broken, which caused a whole world of trouble for me later on, because I didn't realize it was broken. So I was wearing like a supportive bandage, and I kept going on to work, and that was so difficult because it did not heal properly, but that's a whole other story. So I have tried the low-fat diet, the low-calorie diet, counting my macros. That did not work for me. I just found it unsustainable and very difficult day to day. So because of that, it was a no for me. I'm sure it works for some people, but just not for me. I've decided to try an elimination diet, where basically you cut out certain foods out of your diet and seeing how your body reacts to that. This is something my family has been through for a while. I've got a younger sister who's almost 10 years younger than me, and when she was born, she was intolerant to dairy, which at the time was just unheard of. People thought we were losing her minds, and it was all a joke. But I still remember we used to buy boxes and boxes of rice milk from Germany and having it sent to us, and it was just crazy. But yeah, she genuinely could not have anything dairy. So to make it fair, because it must have been so difficult for her when you're sitting across the table from her and you're having milk and all sorts of things, and she couldn't have it, we decided that as a household we will not be having any dairy, just to make it easier for her. So I was no stranger to that kind of diet. So that's the first thing I tried. I thought, you know what, if my sister is intolerant to dairy and she's had a really bad, like she would get a cold after having a bit of yogurt, for example. Like her body just could not deal with it. With me, I didn't have a reaction similar to that, but I thought, by then I think I've read a few articles, and there were quite a few people saying that a lot of people are intolerant to dairy, for example, and it does not come out as a rash or any other obvious symptoms other than gain weight and being really tired and having acne and several things like that. So that's the next thing I've tried, and it was very, 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 very difficult for a person who loves dairy. Like, it was so tough. Not having cheese, like I went I think 6 months without like full-on cold turkey, and then I just broke down and I binged. I think it was around Christmas time. I binged insane amount of cheese, and you know what, I had all of that. I had a horrible reaction, but then I think I haven't eaten it for a couple of years, and then I've tried bit by bit and it was fine. And what I figured out is I can tolerate products with low lactose content in it. So for example, when you have a glass of milk, it is much higher lactose content compared to like hard cheese, because it's a lot more processed, and lactose has been broken down several times during that process, and I find that my body can cope fine with it. So one thing that came out of the diet is me really understanding that I cannot have a glass of milk without having a reaction. Like instantly I would get really bloated, I would get a headache, I would feel extremely tired. So that was a really good thing about it. But to me, it was unsustainable to expect to not have any dairy products, full stop. Like I knew at some point I'm just gonna binge, and that's something I did not like, because doing things like that was really, really bad for my gallbladder, because the amount of fat that was entering my body, it just like it was such a, anybody's body would not be able to cope with it well. So it did not seem like a good idea for me to commit to something like that. Because one thing that is very, very different that I really wanted to do was I wanted to change the lifestyle. I wanted to commit to something, feel good about it, have cheat days every now and again, but have a system that works. Instead of having like a 2-week diet and then you feel all slim and then you have to do it all over again. Because I've always really struggled with having short-term diets to lose weight, and I've never liked them. I never liked the concept of them. I always found that you're just putting a lot of stress through your body, and later on it's just going to come back anyway, so you'll have to do it again. Might as well commit to really healthy lifestyle where you can keep your weight off and feel happy, you know, not without, oh, I can't have that, I can't, you know, you want to be mentally happy. That was always my goal. And that's why I've been so determined to try and find that perfect combination that works for me. So I've tried the dairy-free one. Oh, I also went vegan on the back of that. So while I was dairy-free, I also went vegan for about 3 months, and that did not work either for me. First of all, what I found is a lot of vegan so when you go vegan, a lot of people struggle with not having like vegan cheeses and vegan meats and stuff like that. Like they genuinely struggle with eating just fruit and veg basically, and grains. So a lot of people go to down like, including me, that's what it was like. I've tried pretty much every vegan cheese out there, and to be perfectly fair, this has been several years, like it's been like what, maybe 8 years ago, so I'm sure the industry has gone really far and the products now are so much better. But one thing I really did not like was the fact that everything was really processed. I found my stomach reacting to it worse because of all the additives in it, compared to me eating meat and cheese and stuff like that. So I completely understand the ethics behind it. I completely support it. It's just something that was unsustainable for me. Not only because I liked the non-vegan product, but also because in my family we have low iron, as it's just the way we are. We're always running low on iron, and one of the main sources of iron is red meat and meat in general. And even though there's plenty of options for iron in which are vegan, my body just it cannot absorb enough of it to be sustainable. I remember when I was pregnant with my eldest Jamie, I wanted to be as healthy as I could be, so I went vegan, and I got myself in a lot of trouble because my iron just tanked massively. Like I had doctors screaming at me to get back to eating it. So now we try to do kind of the best of both worlds. So we have at least, this is the least amount. So last week I think we've done 4, but usually my goal is at least 2 days of no meat and animal products at all in our diet. The rest of the time we do have it, just because we completely understand the morals of it. We're just trying to get the best of both worlds and have balance in our life. But as a commitment of being vegan, it's just something that was completely unrealistic for me, so that did not work, unfortunately. And more than anything, it would not fill me up. Like I feel like I had to constantly be eating, and that was just mentally very difficult for me. Right, the next thing I have tried was intermittent fasting. So if you guys have not heard, intermittent fasting is a commitment that you're making when you have periods of time of not eating anything at all. You're drinking water, you can have black coffee, for example, and I think black tea, but you can't put like milk or sugar in it. Basically, you're not putting any nutrition into your body, and letting it run off what you have and heal itself and have a period of basically rest for your body. And then you have a certain amount of time in a 24-hour period where you can eat whatever you want. So I think the most common one is you don't eat for 14 hours and then you eat for 8 hours straight. And considering we sleep usually for about 8-7 hours out of that 14, it's not too bad at all. I've tried that. My partner, he's a very big fan of intermittent fasting. He feels really, really healthy and good and fit. Like he's a lot more energized from it. And it's been a very interesting concept to try, just because I've always been the kind of person who struggled to have breakfast. Like I'm never hungry for breakfast. And if I have breakfast, I don't feel very good the rest of the day. Like I feel really heavy, I feel very lethargic. It's just like my body does not want to, it's not hungry yet. I need to give it a little bit more rest. But I always thought it was because I had dinner very late. So because of that, it made perfect sense. So many people always tell you, I'm sure you've heard before as well, always have breakfast, it's the most important meal of the day. And I'm the kind of person who believes not for everybody. Everybody's body is different. You gotta feel what's right for your body, what works for it, not just what your body wants, but what's good for your body in the long run. So intermittent fasting was a really interesting concept. I like it and I don't. I kind of follow it, but not really. Like, I'm not like sitting there looking at my watch going, oh my God, one more minute and I can eat. No, not at all. This is more of a guide. I would say that I give my body at least 10 hours every day before, after dinner and before breakfast as a very bare minimum. But honestly, I do not follow it religiously. It's just something that is now implemented into my daily life. I do feel a lot better for it. I feel a lot more energized. My skin has gone a lot better. I feel like my hunger levels have gotten a lot better. Like, my body is a lot better at managing hunger. Like, for example, when you're at work and you're waiting for your lunch break, you're not like, oh my God, my stomach is dying, I need to put something in there. No, it's perfectly fine holding off until you eat. Like, I feel like my body has gotten a lot more patient rather than your hands are starting to shake, like your sugar has really dropped. No, I feel like my body's a lot much better. Like, it's a lot better at managing that, like when I have no choice, like when I'm in the middle of something and I cannot stop to eat, it's a lot easier now. But it is not something that I am following to the dot religiously. There is a lot of different ways how people do intermittent fasting. There's people who fast, I think like 3 times a week or something. I've never tried that, just because I know that it's completely unsustainable for me. I've got a decent appetite. There's no way I can do fasting, and it's not something that ever appealed to me, so I haven't even tried it. So the next thing I've tried after intermittent fasting that I've kind of implemented into my life, but not really, was trying keto and trying paleo diets. So that is, if you're not familiar, those diets, I put them together just because to me, they sound a bit similar in a way that it is a protein-based diet that is low in carbs or no carbs at all, and you basically eat tons and tons of protein, tons and tons of veg. For keto, I don't think you eat fruits at all because you don't want to add even the smallest amounts of carbs into your body. And the concept is that your body will be running off the protein and the fat it already has and the fat that you're feeding it, instead of constantly be giving carbs for your body to be using for energy, which is basically sugar. I really, really like the concept of those because I have always noticed that whenever I had carbs, I would be hungry like an hour later. And if I had too many of them, not too many of them, but like if I had a portion of carbs, like a portion of pasta, not only I would be hungry an hour later, I would be tired. Like, I would be bloated, like my body just, it was always like a massive splurge compared to having something that is very high in protein and fats and had a lot of vegetables and fruits in it. I was a lot happier. So I have tried to be strict paleo. I think I did it for about a month. And I really liked it, really liked it. So with paleo, you can have fruits as well. You're just literally not having any grains. So you can't have rice, you can't have oats, and that kind of stuff. So it was really good for a month. I had crazy amounts of energy. Like, it was mad. Like, even my partner, he was like, it's like you're on batteries. It's incredible. Like, I was working out every day. I was a lot happier. Like, my mental state was amazing. And this was all like during, I think it was coming up to lockdown, and I followed the news quite a lot. So like, so many things were going on, and he's like, are you okay? Like, you must be stressing out a lot. And I was like, you know what? Coping a lot better than I usually would have. So definitely helped my mental state. One thing that did not really work for me was the fact that I think the lack of grains in the paleo diet did not agree with my digestive system. Maybe I didn't leave it enough time to adjust, because that's another thing a lot of people don't realize. You need to give your body plenty of time to adjust, especially to such a major change. Like, I've grown up on eating bread every day. Like, I love bread, and that was another reason why it didn't work for me. I love that every now and again I know I'm gonna have it. So I wanted something which would be a little bit more balanced, but as a concept of eating high protein, high fat diet made me lose a ton of, like, this was me recovering from having my second baby, and I lost the weight like that. It was amazing. As soon as I started it, maybe a couple of weeks in, I saw results. I could train really, I was training every day without being tired. I was putting on muscle so easily. Like, as I started it, then I kind of, not fallen off it, but I've reduced my strictness of paleo a month in, and then I still basically do it. So I include a bit of grain into my life. I don't eat regular pasta anymore. I eat gluten-free pasta that is made out of quinoa, that is seeds, so it's quite a healthy pasta in that sense, like compared to other gluten-free pastas made out of rice. I eat only brown rice, and I eat oats. I do have an occasional bread every now and again, but I feel like because I eat mainly without regular bread and white flour and gluten, I feel like when I do have that slice of bread or a bagel, and I'm talking like maybe once a week, once every 10 days, I feel like my body just powers through it. I have no reaction. I'm not bloated anymore. I feel like my abs are popping. Like, I look so much better. Like, my body's a lot more toned. My skin is so a lot healthier. So I've really enjoyed that diet. And the reason why I didn't do keto, even though I completely understand the concept of it, is because the fact that you can't eat fruits was just something I could not commit myself to. I love fruits. It is something that I just couldn't do it. So even though I completely understand the concept, that I think it's really cool, something that I just could not commit to, so I've stopped doing it and I switched to paleo. So after I've tried paleo diet and I've been doing it for several months, I have come across quite a lot of books and articles about gut health. And for those people who don't know, I'm about to blow your mind. It is actually, the way our food is digested as it enters our system is not using our organs. Like, I feel like when we were in school, we were taught that like our stomach and our bowels and all that, like they digest the food and we get the nutrients out of them. But actually it is the microbes that are in our gut are the ones breaking down the food and then we absorb it. So it is a really weird concept, and I feel like a lot of people cringe because we've always been told that microbes are something that are like bad and we've got to get rid of and stuff like that. But there's plenty of good microbes that are making your digestive system a lot more adjustable to a lot of things. You feel like it, our gut is our everything. Like it affects your mood, like brain fog, the levels of energy that you have, your mood, your hormones, your digestive, like it affects everything, and it is absolutely mad how much it does. So when I was breastfeeding my second baby, Millie, I found that I could not really have enough milk to feed her unless I ate a lot of bread. And that would always upset my stomach, and I was between a rock and a hard place. Like, obviously I wanted to breastfeed my baby for as long as possible, and that gave me a ton of milk, but my stomach was in a world of pain and it was really difficult. So when I've stopped breastfeeding her, I was still eating a lot of bread just because that was like the habit I got into, and I love bread products and stuff like that. And I was really baffled why some days I could have bread or pizza or pasta, whatever, and feel completely fine. And then the next day I would have like exactly the same piece of bread from the same loaf, and I would be in a world of pain. Like, it was like I genuinely, like my stomach was hurt, like it was bad, like I would fall over in pain. So that was something that I started looking into. So that it's like the first thing, I got off the bread and I found paleo and keto diet, so I started doing that. But on the back of it, it was just like a question that kept bugging me. Why in the world? Like, I've never had an intolerance to bread before, like to gluten. ever. Like I eat it all my life. I've always reacted well for it. If anything in my family, as I said, like my sister, she cannot eat dairy. So it was really, really baffling to me. And then I was looking into the fact that like after you have a C-section, you are given antibiotics, and probably it wiped out my gut. So I done a test to see which microbes I do have in my body, and I was really, really surprised with the results. So it showed that I have a ton of really good bacteria. So you've got lots and lots and lots of different types, and each one of those types help you digest certain things. Or if you lack it, it means you can't really digest those foods. So for example, I was really, really surprised because I expected me not to have many microbes that needed to digest dairy products, and actually I had plenty of them, which was really baffling. So I'm really curious for my sister today for us to see what it's like compared to hers. And it also shows what kind of yeasts and bad bacteria and viruses that you have in your gut that you try to get rid of. And I was really, really surprised at the results. So basically I have one type of bacteria that is bad in my gut that I am getting rid of slowly over time. And that is the reason why I was reacting to the bread the way I did. This is something that like you piece together like hundreds of different pieces of research to understand what's going on, just because this is so new. And so like there's a lot of studies going on now, but a lot of the results from studies are they're preliminary studies, they're short-term studies. Like I feel like we're on the verge, like we're at the very beginning of researching this in medicine, so I can't wait to see what else is going to be. So for now, just a bit of a disclaimer, this is all trial and error from me, it's all guesswork, but or like a way of justifying how it works and figuring it out. So back to me looking into the gut health and that side of things, and a couple of months into having my baby, my younger girl Millie, I was really, really struggling. I feel like my body was in a crazy state. It was mad. So on top of recovering from a C-section, which is, as you can imagine, it's a major surgery, it's very, very painful. And we had a dog who was sick, I had a 5-year-old, you've got business to run and things like that. And all of a sudden, I had these stomach problems and I got crazy eczema. Like, I can't even explain to you how and before this, I've never had anything like it. I had it all over my scalp, I had it on my lip, I had it on my cheek, I had it on my stomach. Like, it was madness, and it was spreading like wildfire. The only one who's had eczema in our family was my son, and he had it on his like elbows, and he had it for a couple of years. He had a little bit, and just it wasn't really like it looked like it was spreading, but I think it's more like he was growing. So as he was growing, it looked bigger as a patch, but as a proportion to his body, it was never, you know, it didn't really expand. It didn't look sore or anything. We just kept putting cream on it, and you know how it goes. Like, at least in the UK, it's considered quite normal, and a lot of the times kids grow out of it. You just make sure that they're comfortable, that it doesn't crack or itch or anything like that. But mine, oh my God, it was so hard. It was just terrible. I couldn't even kiss my husband. Like, I couldn't even give him a peck on the lips because my lip was covered in eczema, and not only it looked horrible, it was so painful. I couldn't even smile because my lip would crack. It was, I can't even explain how horrible it was. And that was, I think, the main reason why I started looking into gut health, because it is a known fact that eczema is an autoimmune reaction, and autoimmune reaction is basically when your immune system does not react the way it should to certain things in your body. And a lot of things like type 1 diabetes and arthritis, and is that in a lot of ways your body just reacts inadequately to some things, and eczema was one of those things. So I wanted to understand why in the world my body would start doing it all of a sudden. And I found that there's a massive link between our immune system and the gut. And I wanted to make sure that I would take good care of my gut. So by getting the test results of what kind of microbes I had, I knew I had to cut out all the sugar, all the gluten. So it worked really, really well with the paleo diet. So together with that, I would also focus on a lot of gut healing foods to restore the microflora to restore my gut health and the balance of good bacteria versus the bad bacteria and make myself feel better. So it's eating a lot of gut healing foods like coconut oil and turmeric. We pretty much have a curry every like 4 days, and it was great. Honestly, it is not difficult to eat this way, just because all of the things that are good for your gut, or most of them, at least the ones we eat, they're just everyday foods. It is so much more difficult to go vegan, in my opinion, than to have a gut healing diet. So basically you need to cut out all the processed foods and things like white flour. Like for example, you can still have wholemeal flour, but you just stop buying bleached white flour and sugar and anything processed. So basically, as you look at the ingredients, if you have any monosaturates, you know those words that you're like, I can't even pronounce this, most of the time that is additives and other nasties that are in it. That basically as it enters your body does not know how to break it down, so it just becomes toxic to your body and it causes inflammation, and from that you're basically ruining your gut through that. So after the difficult part is a lot of things that we've been brought up thinking that they're super healthy are actually, from that point of view, are really unhealthy. So if we go back to like my son's eczema, when he started school, which was pretty much around the same time as I was struggling, he started struggling with his eczema because it started to get very irritated. It started expanding massively and he was itching a lot, and he was complaining that like he can't really lean on the desk because it's right on his elbow, and it was really sore and uncomfortable. And we were trying dozens of different creams and to soothe it. Like I've tried like every shampoo, like we were like in the same boat. And I have figured out what it was, because at home we never really ate a lot of processed food to begin with, so I couldn't quite figure out why in the world he was having such a, like I got why I had such a reaction was because I had antibiotics and I was eating a lot of bread. Like I was eating a lot more bread than he was, just because I was breastfeeding and stuff, so I just had a lot of bad bacteria in my gut that I had to get rid of to restore the balance. But I never understood why he was suffering as well, and my husband was fine. And we figured it out because while he was at school, every single day he was having baked beans on a jacket potato. And even though that's not considered a bad lunch, because it was processed food and he was having it in such, well, imagine having it every single day. It builds up and it's like your body doesn't have any time to actually heal itself. So eating something like this rarely will probably be completely fine. Like your body will get over it. But if you eat it constantly, like the level of something that your body just doesn't want, it keeps getting bigger and bigger. And that's what we were both struggling with. So in a way we had the same problem, but because of different things that we were eating. And the same thing was for bread for me. So there were days when I would have a slice of bread and I'd be completely fine. What I didn't realize is that I didn't have any bread before, or I had a lot less of it. And then the days when I had a really bad reaction is because I've been eating just so much of it. Like my gut just could not do it anymore. Like the bad bacteria thrives off this stuff, and when you eat more of it, you're feeding more of it, so it breeds a lot more. So I would have too much of it, and then for several days when I would have a lot lower amount of it, obviously it would change the balance. And this is the way I'm justifying it for myself, because I have, as I said, like bread or bagel or whatever every like once a week, maybe once every 10 days or so, and I feel fine now, like completely fine. I don't get any reaction, whereas before it was just madness. So in a way, after trying all of these things, I've kind of taken the best of them, or the best for me, the things that were working for me, the practical side of them. So for example, intermittent fasting, I no longer feel guilty for not having breakfast and having breakfast around, I don't know, 10, 11 o'clock, and eating when I'm actually hungry. Having dinner a lot earlier to keep it within that window as much as possible. So we eat dinner now a lot earlier. We eat it around 5:30, which sounds absolutely mad. If somebody told me a couple of years ago I'll be eating dinner with my husband and my kids at 5:30, I would have thought you were joking, and we're not 80-year-olds, you know. But it works for us. It took several weeks for our bodies to adjust, but we feel, both me and my husband, we feel so much better for it. First of all, we have family time. We all eat together at the same time, and by eating at 5:30, most of the time I bake without really forcing myself into it. I'm doing intermittent fasting because I only have breakfast around 10 o'clock the next day. So it's fantastic. Like, my body feels a lot better. I wake up, I'm not bloated. I don't get stomach aches anymore. My eczema, all gone. Like, within a couple of months of me following the gut healing diet, not a super strict one, like I wasn't making bone broth, for example, but really looking into it and trying to get things that were genuinely realistic for me to implement in my lifestyle has made a massive difference. And I've lost a ton of weight. Like, I've dropped, I was about size 12 when I started. I'm a size 8 now, and I've built up a lot of muscle. Like, I'm a lot leaner now, and my energy levels are through the roof. Like, for example, before I would either drive or take the bus to get to my son's school to pick him up, which is like 2 miles away. Now I walk there and back, and he walks back, and we're full of energy. Like, it's so good to feel happy in your own body, to feel healthy in your own body, and more than anything, to understand how the body works. Like, for example, my husband and I went out for dinner 2 nights ago into town because I feel like there's probably going to be a lockdown again, and we haven't been out on a date, like out of the house on a date, for about 8 months, because between having a baby and then after the baby comes, you know, it's just a whole world of difference, literally. And then the lockdown came, and then there's just always something. And we went out, and I had a drink, and I had the foods I usually don't have, and it's like the next day I pretty much got a few spots. But that is something that I knew will happen. When I ordered a glass of wine, I knew exactly that this is going to happen. I'm going to get a bit bloated just because it's quite sugary, any alcoholic drinks, and it's like, having a balanced life is having a realistic life that works for you. If you want to have a takeout that night, that is fine. You just have to understand how you're going to feel the next day. There's nothing better than when you feel great in your own body. So I would strongly encourage for you guys not to follow exactly what I did, but go into it with your eyes open and find something that makes you happy and healthy. And if my story has helped even a single person, I will be super happy. So please make sure to tell me in the comments below what kind of things you have tried, what you found helpful, what did not work for you, and why. Because I love hearing those kind of stories. I love learning. I love trying to understand how our bodies work in that sense. And I think it's really, really cool that we are really trying to connect the dots now rather than just not. In a way. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Sorry it's a really, really long one with me talking a lot, but I just wanted to make sure that you had the backstory. So whenever I'm saying we're eating this or we're eating that, you understand where we're coming from. So again, we're not perfect. Every now and again we eat, as I said, we eat cheese, and that's something that is not good for your gut, but we love it, and it's good for our mental health in that sense. So I will see you in my next one, guys. Bye.